Hi everyone, and welcome to our final Tech Futures for 2020. My name is Gemily and my co-host today is Casey. And we're part of the Bendigo Tech School team, and we're delighted to welcome all of you joining us here tonight to hear from some of our local mining professionals on rich mining history of Bendigo, their journey and what the current trends are and what excites them about the future of mining. But before I start, I would like to do an acknowledgement to country. I would like to begin by acknowledging and paying my respects to the people and traditional custodians of the land of where we are all gathered today. I would like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders here today. Also paying my respects to your elders, past, present, and emerging. We express our gratitude in the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual, and cultural costs of that sharing, and our hope that we may walk forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. Before we get started, a bit of context about us. The Bendigo Tech School is a centre of deep learning that uses leading edge technology, discovery, and innovation to solve real-world problems. Our aim is to deliver advanced STEAM knowledge and skills that Victorian school students need to flourish in the rapidly changing global economy. We're hosted by La Trobe University, and we work in partnership with 14 local secondary schools, as well as local industry and enterprise. One of our ongoing industry events are these Tech Future Talks, which have really been a highlight this year. And I'll pass on to Casey now, who will introduce our panellists tonight.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our Term 4 Tech Futures talk. Just a little bit of housekeeping, so you will be able to interact with our guests tonight. To do so, we have a Q&A function. So if you have a question, just select the Q&A button, type in your question there, and we'll be able to feed that through to our panelists. So if you have a question, send it through there. We'll have time at the end to answer those as well. We're so lucky today to welcome 3 distinguished guests in the mining industry. So I'll hand it over to Bill, who will introduce himself just a little bit.
Thank you, Casey. Can you hear me all there?
We can hear you.
Beautiful. G'day, my name's Bill. I'm a qualified mine geologist. I was born and bred here in Bendigo. After living in Bendigo, I moved to Ballarat, where I completed a Bachelor of Applied Science in Geology, graduate diploma of mining. I then moved on to work down up in Mount Isa, up in Queensland, worked there for about 6.5 years. In recent times, I've moved away from mine geology. I now work in heritage tourism, where I currently work at the Central Deborah Gold Mine. A big part of my interest is not so much geology, but also the wider mining history of Bendigo and the Bendigo region. And I'm hoping to continue to not only preserve our mining history, but also to educate and continue transferring the knowledge that those have come before us in mining to those that still live in Victoria to this day.
Thanks, Bill. I'll now hand it over to Bala. Bala, could you introduce yourself and a bit about your background?
I'm Dr. Bala Hebbar. I did my PhD. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a doctor of metallurgy. I started with my career as a mechanical engineer. And in the mechanical engineering, I was finding making a casting was quite a creative, that is creating a shape that you like by pouring molten metal. And that is when I went and did my master's degree in foundry technology. And subsequently, I was working in making castings predominantly for wear application, where a lot of the ground engaging tools, mill liners, crusher jaws, all those sort of wear parts, which are predominantly made by steel and white iron. So then I took, after working in industry for about 3 years, I took a research work, which was basically developing wear-resistant material for crushing coal, crushing ores, all sorts of crushing application. Then I traveled overseas. I went to West Africa, engaged in supplying all the tools, ground engaging tools, wear parts for the mining companies. Then from West Africa, I migrated to Australia in 1996. Then I went to New Zealand, again in the same field. Basically what I did, whatever my specialization is, no matter which country, I traveled around the world. My interest is predominantly on research work. Even now I'm associated with Electro, with the Deakin University, developing better steel, better wear-resistant steel for the tools. And I've been working with the Keach. That is how I came to Bendigo. So I'm currently settled in Bendigo, trying to help younger kids how exciting an engineering profession is as you move on. Because you always create something, unlike in other profession where they probably give services, but engineering is always creating the future, creating something that wasn't yet there yesterday.
That's so wonderful to hear, Bala, and I can't wait to hear more. Our next guest tonight is Jeff. So I'll just get Jeff to introduce himself and a little bit about what he does.
Oh, yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity. Yeah, so Jeff Norris is my name, as you've already mentioned. So I've worked in the mining industry in Bendigo for about 12 years now. So I got involved through studies at university. Worked up to that point. I was late in my I was about 30 when I attended university to do a mining degree. But before then, I worked as a fitter and turner tool maker in southwestern Victoria. That sort of wasn't stimulating enough, so I returned to schooling to study to do civil engineering initially, but switched over to mining. And my experience is fairly limited, but as far as the sites I've been to, I've worked at Fosterville all my life. Not all my life, all my career, and all my mining career, and but I've been able to experience some pretty educational tours of other mine sites and sharing experiences with other mine sites to bring back to Fosterville. So it's been a good experience thus far.
No, that's so great to hear, Jeff. And I'm going to direct it back to Bala now. I know we've sort of touched on everyone's journey on how they got to Bendigo, and I'm quite fascinated to hear about, you know, you've taken mining across the world, Bala. So how did you get involved in mining and the METS industry yourself?
Overall, my profession in the last 30 years was always involved in servicing the mining industry, helping the mines in terms of their equipment breakage or equipment wear, particularly in mining. You can imagine, say for example, currently in Australia, in some of the harsh mine like iron ore mines, a 100 kilogram tooth of an excavator wears within 2 hours, within 2 days, within 40 hours. So you can imagine a kitchen knife which lasts for lifelong as compared to a mining tooth which digs the iron ore, basically steel digging steel. Within 40 hours, an entire tooth of 100 kilo wears out. So that's how harsh some of the mining application is. And because it is such a huge consumption, it's a bit like Woolworths and Coles, where there will be always a demand for consumable of metals and materials. Because it wears fast, there is ample opportunity for research work, so that it doesn't wear in 2 days, it wears in maybe 10 days, 5 times less downtime. So that's how I got, it was exciting. That's how I got involved. And since then, supporting mining has become my profession. And wherever there was exciting job, I changed continent to continent to country to country. So in Bendigo, Keach Casting was one of the suppliers of ground engaging tools. The company started 3 generations ago, where they started with the little agricultural tool for plowing the ground. Since then, they have grown up to making a tooth for a 800-ton excavator for the global Hitachi market. And I have been involved the last 12 years in innovating new material, new product for the global market.
That's so exciting that you've been a part of that change within Bendigo as well. And it's exciting to see that you will also be contributing to the future of change with now being in the tertiary education sector as well. I'm now going to ask Jeff, obviously you spoke about starting as a fitter and turner, so your journey is a bit different to most, but how did you get involved in the mining and mets industry? And I suppose you grew up in Bendigo, but what made you stay in Bendigo?
I actually grew up in southwestern Victoria, and that's where I did most of my work as a fitter and turner for 12 years. But that was a job, and it sort of wasn't stimulating enough. So I needed more something a bit more mentally challenging. And I went back to uni, 32 years of age. That was difficult, but it was hard work, but it was very rewarding. I was introduced to mining here at Fosterville by a metallurgy student that I was working with at the time. So I was studying civil engineering, and he brought me up here on a tour. And no offense, Bala, but the metallurgy didn't do it for me, but the mining did. So I switched from civil to mining engineering, working through many different fields in the mining engineering department here at Fosterville, the drill and blast, the design team, but ventilation had a really good engineering, some really good challenges and some really good concepts and theories that I could apply and learn. And that was really stimulating from a mental point of view. And I always found that there was plenty of challenges here at Fosterville for that. My final year thesis at uni was on the ventilation system, and it was only probably 2 or 3 years ago that I got the learning and the understanding from that thesis to really apply it. And so it is interesting and exciting to have a plan, have an idea, put it together and see it to work, or fail in some instances, but even failures have good learning opportunities. So yeah, my journey has been not all in mining. It was through fitter and turner, and then later on in life I've needed or had a desire for knowledge or understanding of how things work and how the concepts and how forces work together and all that sort of stuff. And it's just been a constant learning journey from about 32 years of age when I went back to uni. And even now, I'm still learning at work, which is good.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. I know at the tech school, we often refer to failures as opportunities to learn as well. So it's really exciting to hear that continues through industry too. So I apologise, it's actually Bill that grew up in Bendigo. So I'll hand my next question to Bill. How did you get involved in the mining and mets industry through geology, and why did you come back to Bendigo?
Well, I originally started living in Bendigo. I grew up here, and my dad grew up in West Bendigo, up around places like Victoria Hill, which is world famous. It was one of the first places for where hard rock mining actually started here in Victoria. And we used to go up there, play as kids, and just grew a bit of an interest in the mining history. I took a bit of a different turn with my career. At the age of 18, I decided to go to uni and study geology. I moved on to Ballarat there for a few years, where I had to study, and travelled between Bendigo and Ballarat there for a few years. Unfortunately, when I graduated, it was just after the GFC, so graduate positions weren't readily available here in Victoria, so I had to move a little farther afield. I somehow ended up in Mount Isa, which was a bit of a different place to live. It was definitely a real culture shock being in the early 20s and being able to move on to a different part of the world and working in one of the world's largest zinc mines, which was, very interesting, making multi-million-dollar decisions and working with all different disciplines, from metallurgists to mining engineers and all sorts. So it was certainly a very interesting place to work. After a few years, I thought it was time to move on, wanted to move back to Victoria, and become a bit more involved in the mining history side of things, which where I currently work now. I work at the Central Deborah, and just having family close here in Bendigo and close to Melbourne, and just somewhere where I grew up to raise my family. I had my first child back in May, which is pretty exciting, and we've decided to move back and do something a little bit different, but I can still apply my training and my education over the last few years to living here in Bendigo, and quite enjoy being able to be involved at the Central Deborah in a number of different roles, tour guiding, winder driving, mine maintenance. So definitely get to see very different parts of the business and apply my skills, and also move into completely different areas. I didn't see myself going into heritage tourism when I completed my geology degree, but that's how life is. Sometimes you have opportunities that come in different fields, and it was definitely very exciting. Very busy time for us at the moment, as we reopened on Friday, so we are in the middle of just gradually ramping up our mine tours and getting everything up and going. So it's pretty exciting to get the public back underground and get them on mine tours. So from last Friday we opened up. We're open 5 days a week from Wednesday to Sunday. If you're interested in coming along with the tour, please jump online to our website. Our spaces are very limited due to COVID restrictions, so it's highly recommended that you jump online to make a booking if you're interested in coming on one of our tours. We look forward to having you all aboard.
Thank you so much, Bill, and thank you, Bala and Jeff, for giving us a brief introduction on what brought you into the mining industry, and the great work that you do here in Bendigo. And I'll start with you, Jeff, on this second question, especially in regards to your recent, I suppose, change into mining ventilation and finally getting to use that thesis, which is super exciting. But where has the industry come from, and where do you see the industry going with mine ventilation in particular?
Well, I guess for me, the learning over the last 12 years being in mining, it's the industry is putting a real big emphasis on the utilisation of power and how we use it in mines, especially with ventilation. There's a great opportunity for us to save a lot of power with different technologies coming out. So dual speed fans, variable speed drives to slow speed fans down or speed them up. Variable inlet mains on fans, so we adjust the angle of the air that goes into the fans to adjust the power they use. So there's a big emphasis on that. So before it was just turn a fan on, blow as much air in there as you can, but now it's looking to, well, hang on, do we need all this air? Do we need to burn all this power? How can we use it more efficiently? And do we need to? How can we recognise areas that we can use power better? So there's a big emphasis on utilisation and ventilation on demand, I guess, is the term used in the industry. So that's a big one as far as that I'm seeing a big change in the industry, that people are looking to save power but use ventilation smarter on site. A couple of other things, like especially the big topic is diesel particulates. So more awareness of diesel particulates. So a lot of research is going on in that field. So there's a lot of awareness, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of data out there. It's now being classed as a Group 1 carcinogen. We've got guidelines in Australia, but not regulations. So and that may be because of lack of epidemiological data, but so there's still work going on that. So there's a lot of work in that field. Silicosis is another hot topic. So there's a lot of work going on that field. So atmospheric conditions and how we monitor that, how we look at that is a big change in the industry, is a big emphasis as well. Another big one is battery power. So on the back of these diesel particulates and all that sort of stuff is a need for us to look at battery power haulage fleets. So they're available, but the technology is still behind somewhat. So that's exciting, and that's where I think the industry is looking to head, and the way we haul ore out of the ground. Diesel engines, how long will they be around for? I think they're limited because of the diesel particulate concern and the atmospheric conditions that they present, not only with heat, but with diesel particulates. So they were a big shift in the mining industry, or a big concentration in those areas. Also, so live monitoring technology. So the technology we use in our everyday, our laptops, our phones, and Wi-Fi, that's starting to really, what we use at home is really starting to creep into the underground environment. So all that technology is now becoming available, and there's a big shift to live data, fixed monitoring underground, so we can see what's happening without having to put people in harm's way. So technology innovation is playing a real big part in the industry now. So there's a big drive to try and take people out of harm's way, which is the hierarchy of control, is elimination. So definitely, we're installing Wi-Fi, we're fixed monitors, fixed flow sensors, and all that sort of stuff, so we can see what's underground without sending people there. So that's sort of, I guess, from where I sit, from what I've been looking at, and over the last in ventilation, I've been sort of in ventilation for the past 5 or 6 years. There's been a big shift towards automation, and technology is really playing a key part in the future.
Thanks so much, Jeff. It sounds like there's some amazing opportunities in R&D and those efficiencies and innovation for our, I suppose, future students coming through thinking about a career in mining. So thank you for that. And I know mining ventilation, is such a broad, a broad topic in terms of, it can not just be for, one particular mine and how they do it, but in different sort of areas as well. So Bill, where has the industry come from, and where do you see it going in terms of your history in mining and that sort of thing?
Well, as exciting as the future is with everything, it's also important to understand what's happened in the past. And the Central Deborah, where I work, plays a big role in ensuring that not only we're looking forward to the future, but we're also attempting to preserve what's happened in the past, and also helping people, educate people to understand where a technology today has come from, and the early 1850s gold diggers that came during the gold rush from the old pick and shovel day with the gold pans, digging up to nowadays where places like Fosterville with the latest and greatest innovations in battery technology. It's really exciting to see the future trends and seeing how quickly over the last 150 to 170 years, how fast the technology has evolved and has moved forward since the gold rushes of the 1850s. So it's quite exciting to see not only the history, but also what's going to happen in the future, and how that will play a big role in mining in the past. In terms of history, in terms of research, definitely computers and access to digital technology has made research so much easier. So the old days of researching, digging through index files and going down to the local library to look on microfilm, research and gathering information was very hard. It was very time consuming, very labor intensive. Whereas now with computer technology, particularly to do with the National Library of Australia's Trove, where they've downloaded a lot of newspapers onto online, just makes the data collection and the research so much quicker, so much easier. And it's so much exciting because we can look through more data, we can look through more information, we can share it with people, and it really adds to helping to keep that information in the mainstream, keep it in public view, so it doesn't get lost and misplaced.
Thanks so much, Bill. And yeah, I think there's a lot to be learned about, what we used to do and how that plays a role in what we do in the future. And Bala, I know you do a lot of work in research, and I suppose given your background, where's the industry come from, and where do you see the industry going with mine ventilation?
Look, in terms of overall mining, although my specialization is more on mining itself, which is excavation, hauling, milling, crushing, and processing gold or zinc or iron ore or whatever. Mines, if you take the history, people used to use pickets, that is long ago. And then the mines started using excavator. So if you say in 90s, I don't go too far back. In 90s, whatever the excavator machines were used, and now it is about 6 times larger. So for example, in Australia today, a surface mine excavator can take a scoop, and the scoop will fill a 4x4 big master bedroom full. That's how big it is. So every time when a scoop is lifted, it is about 100 tons. And that 100 tons of ore goes into a truck of 300 tons. And all this happens within 2 minutes. So if you see a hill in any surface mining, if you see a big hill, and when you visit there, this time it will be hill, and next time the whole full hill is flat. That is how mega operation is going currently. That's one aspect. The other aspect is the reliability of those excavators. People used to do maybe 2 days. They dig up to Friday, Saturday, Sundays for maintenance. Then again, it will start on Monday. Whereas now, the expectation is machines should work 24 hours, 7 days. And that is now possible because a lot of preventive maintenance, a lot of digital data, a lot of data processing, a lot of sensing. A machine may not be able to now unnecessarily overload it and break it down. So there are a lot of technology role playing these days. At the moment, the technology is using cameras, sensors that would optimize the operation. For example, depending on the type of ore they dig, whether it is an overburden or the real ore, the weight of the material digging or density can vary. Whereas with the digital technology, you can have sensors that would tell the operator, okay, right, this bucket is 100 tons now, so I can lift it and put it into truck. Whereas in olden days, either it will be overweight or it will be substantially underweight because operators sitting at 3-floor high machine could not really gauge it. That is on operation side. On material side, it was quite common in olden days, a steel, if it works for a few hours, people were happy to stop the machine and refix the new tooth and go for digging. Whereas now, people wanted to optimize that. So which led to newer steel researching in universities. So basically, if I take in, say, 70s, 80s, and today, a steel that is, or any material that is substituted gives 2 to 3 times more wear life than what it was before. So this was all possible with various scientific research and applying different type of material in the given wear applications. The other aspect is that digitization also made managers to make a better decision. Particularly in terms of breakdowns, it has helped to educate the mining personnel. For example, in one of the mines in New South Wales, they have an app in their mobile phone, which will tell every hour what is the gold production cost and due to what breakdown, the cost is going up or down. So it educates the operators to hit the right button and optimize the operation. The third one is the safety. From safety perspective, mines have come a long way. Again, technology has helped them to keep things monitored, to do the preventive maintenance. All of them are through the big data processing. So where it is going, I'm sure it will come to a tiny little key control to manage a machine which will carry 500 tons of ore. For example, currently the technology allows somebody sitting in Perth can operate a machine in Northwest, which is about 2,000 kilometers away. The trucks have become driverless. So it's basically just like playing video games. Somebody in Perth sits in control room and controls trucks 2,000 kilometers away from their office. So automation is becoming more and more. Robotics are being applied. The transmission of signals, or even to the extent of mapping, the terrain mapping, all of them are happening through technology. It's quite exciting, applying other technology into mining, making a real boost for the mining industry.
Thank you so much, Bala. I think it's quite exciting to see and hear from you all, to hear that, you know, processes are becoming more safer for everyone, and it's becoming more precise as well, which in the end is better for you guys too. So my next question is, and I'm going to ask Bill first, what do you see as current trends within your specialised area? So we're looking at, you know, you can look at both the tourism trends within your area, or even trends you've noticed working as a geologist too.
I might start off with the geology side. It is quite exciting to see everything that's happening with Fosterville, one of the richest and highest grade gold deposits currently being mined anywhere in the country. And it's quite exciting to see the amount of work that's being done by not only government departments, so for example, the Geological Survey of Victoria been putting a lot of work into researching computer modelling, looking for extensions of the old gold fields, and looking and trying to entice investment into the state to get people interested in exploring, hopefully finding and mining gold deposits, particularly as we come out of the COVID situation and look at the economic recovery. Definitely minerals, particularly gold in Victoria, plays a very important role in that aspect. So very important for the government to try and to entice the next generation of miners and investors to invest in mining projects throughout the state. In terms of tourism, it is quite exciting to see a lot of people still interested in history. A lot of people now travelling around the state, travelling around Victoria. It's great to see people interested in history, whether they be prospectors going out on weekends with metal detectors, looking for new areas and driving past and dropping in to say hi and learning a little bit about the mining history. Educational groups, so people that are interested in still involving history as part of education and curriculum is quite exciting to get the next generation of geologists or mining engineers or miners, people that are interested in gaining a career and developing a career in the minerals industry is quite exciting. And it's great to be part of someone who might be able to inspire and influence the next generation of miners in Victoria.
Thanks, Bill. I definitely agree with you there. It's exciting to hear that, you know, there's so many different types or groups of people that are coming to Bendigo to learn a bit more about the history. And I think it's really important, I suppose, in the current circumstances with COVID-19 that, you know, that sort of option of tourism is still there. And, you know, it's where Bendigo started, really. So I'm going to ask you next, Jeff. What do you see as current trends within your specialised area?
Yeah, well, I guess I've got to touch sort of on the topics of the ventilation on demand systems that I spoke about earlier. They're really becoming the hot topic, you know, and what that gives us. So for instance, at Fosterville, 23% of our heat underground is produced by our underground auxiliary fans. So that's like 1,400 split systems, air conditioning systems running all at the same time underground, to give you a bit of an idea on what that's like. So we can save those. There's a real power saving there. So the industry is really looking to move to that ventilation on demand systems to save power. because of not only from a cost point of view, but safety point of view, we reduce heat. So it's heat as we get deeper, hospitals 1.2 kilometres deep. So heat at that level is one of our major issues we have to deal with. So any way we can reduce heat, not only here, but anywhere, all mines are looking to reduce heat, because that's something that we want to try and we have to deal with. So there's a big emphasis, and the current trend is as I mentioned earlier, fixed monitoring, live data, getting information straight away. So live feedback, so we know what's happening straight away, so we can react quicker to situations, so we can have emergency procedures streamlined, and we can react to data as we get it, not sort of retrospective. So it's that technology that is really starting to roll out through the mining industry. Also, some of that technology is tracking of our fleet underground. So we've got 50, 60 ton trucks driving underground. We're a curved decline, so it's like driving down the mountainside. A big truck coming around the corner, you don't see it till it's on you. So the ability to track that data and see that equipment driving around underground and know the vicinity where you are to a truck, so that gives us the operator of a light vehicle underground warning on whether there's a truck coming and to get out of its way. And so there's a safety issue there, safety gain there. So absolutely the current trend is getting that technology to make it safer for underground operators, especially because visibility is so poor, or is limited, I should say, underground. So just because of the environment. So that is probably one of the major ones. Again, the trends on atmospheric contaminants. So a better understanding of that, and the limits that are applied. So in my opinion, there's no Victorian mining regulation is sort of behind the rest of the country. So with the increased, and as Bill mentioned, exploration in Victoria has got a big future. So there's a lot of deposits being discovered, and that'll bring attention to Victoria from probably legislation point of view. So we might see stricter rules or more prescriptive rules coming into play. So there's things happening, and I think the future is big in Victoria for exploration wise, but not only gold but copper as well. So there's a big future in Victoria, in my point of view, in my opinion, I should say.
Thanks, Jeff. It is exciting to hear. And I think, you've definitely painted a picture there of what being in the mine is like. I know often you see those movies and stuff like that, but I'm sure it's nothing in comparison to being underground. And I can't imagine how hot it would be, and having that much ventilation in there as well, just to make sure it's safe for everyone too. So thank you. Bala, what do you see as current trends within your specialised area?
Okay, there are a couple of areas where, again, it is driven by green energy, the safety of the operation, safety of the operator, and minimizing the downtime, basically. Mining, it is a global market. There is a competition from countries like South America or other countries. So Australia has to stay on top of it. And particularly Australia is known for leading technology adopters in the mining area. We are the mining leaders. So even if you go around the world, a lot of Australians do work in various mines in Africa and South America. That is because of the reputation Australia has got, because we were always ahead in terms of adapting technology, being more innovative. And even now, okay, the advantage for Australia is we are very rich in minerals. Even in Victoria, there is plenty of mineral sands. The way the world is moving, electric car, it needs batteries, so it needs lithium. Same thing, nickel, cadmium, whatever you name it, they are all in the ground, luckily in our Australian lucky land. So the trick is how best we take it out without harming the environment, which means, again, use of green energy, use of less energy. So the trend, one of the trend in our metallurgy area is making the tool that remains sharp. So for it to remain sharp, the steel should be very, very hard. Once it is hard, it will stay sharp, which means the machine can penetrate, or tooth or cutting edge can penetrate easily into the ground using a lot less diesel. So universities are engaged in finding out what profiles, what shape that will penetrate into the ground very well, and what material and what component of material or what combination of material that would help in increasing the hardness and hence sharper the knife. So that's predominantly what is happening in the mining, excavating, crushing places. From safety front, again, use of robotics, like in olden days, people will go use a big hammer, sledgehammer, remove the pin, remove the tooth, all those sort of things. People were getting hurt. Their back was getting injured because of the heavy lifting of sledgehammers and whatnot. So a lot of companies now started adopting robotics. So the operator can change even 100 kg, 200 kg tooth with a robotic arm. And there is no need for people to go near to the machine or get injured. So there's a big drive on safety side. In terms of change of tooth or any breakdown, substantially reduced with the digital application of like a camera. Camera can sense how much a tooth or a blade is worn out and when it is due for changing. Whereas in the past, the guys have to go, bend over, go under the bucket, take a tape measure it and establish how long it is going to stay for next 15 days or 2 months. Whereas today, cameras do all that and bring out the data. And the big data also tells them the average life of a particular wear component. So it's 3 areas: material development, automation, robotics, and camera sensing technology.
Very exciting to hear. And I think the next question flows on really well from the current trends. And what is something that excites you, Bill, about the future of mining and mets, flowing on from what you've seen as the trends that you might see out there?
Something that really excites me is the advances and the developments of technology, particularly computer technology with geology, is how quickly data can be collected. It can be taken up out of the mine into the office. It can be put onto a computer, onto a 3D model, and it can be used in real time by the geologists, the miners, the mining engineers, and just how quickly data can be collected. Also, how much use data can be used in mining. So, in my most of my career, a lot of the data collection was by paper. So, sketching map faces or the end of the tunnels, sketching them onto paper map, and then having to draw them by hand on computer, which was very slow, very tedious. By the time I left geology, it was basically taking an underground camera underground, taking photos, doing a sketch on an iPad and sending it up by Wi-Fi up to the office for the guys to use. So that was probably the most exciting thing in terms of geology is the data collection and the ability, particularly with modern day computers, how well and how widely we can use the geological data which is collected underground in the mines.
Thanks so much, Bill. And data is so powerful when we're able to use it efficiently. And I reflected back, Jeff, when you were speaking about the opportunities for research and development in regards to your field. So what's something that excites you about the future of mining and mets?
Yeah, well, fear of repeating myself, it is the technology. Really, it's like I said, here at Fosterville, we're installing a ventilation on demand system. So we'll see a benefit. I'm really excited, genuinely excited to see the benefit that'll bring us as far as how much power we can save. And it's about applying laws and theories and knowledge that goes along with that to see how that works and the result of those projects. So there's a big, that's definitely the big ticket item, is efficiencies through power savings and smarter use of ventilation underground. And the communication systems that are coming out now for us to Wi-Fi underground is now almost, we've got almost throughout the whole mine. So using that technology to communicate, as Bill said, to get instant feedback, our geologists have scanning systems that give you almost a real life picture of what's underground. You know, before it was mapped on a bit of paper and brought up, and you'd have a meeting a day later to see what was there, 24 hours ago. But now it's instant. So the technologies, the communications methods that are coming up is really exciting. So it does give us a good opportunity to react quicker, like I've mentioned earlier. Even like it's now paperless. With COVID, we've had to change the way we do things, to communicate with other departments. Now it's all done via emails, or not emails, but digital signatures and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes it's been hard to understand and get to work with. It's technology for older people like myself, but we won't go back to the way we were because of the necessity to change the way we do things, which is for the better, given us that we'll use less paper and all that sort of stuff. So all these little technologies and bits and pieces that we do use at home is really exciting to know that starts to roll that underground and make life easier for us at work as it's meant to at home.
Thanks so much, Jeff. And I think you're right in terms of communication and that sort of thing. We're able to have events like this and connect everyone together where we may not necessarily have had or thought about the opportunity to do so. So absolutely right in that aspect. And Bala, I know your work has taken you across the world, which is exciting in itself, but what's something that excites you about the future of mining and mets?
Look, this COVID has come in a right time, I think, blessing in disguise. For example, in the past, whenever there was issue on a given mine, for whatever the nature of the digging or nature of the excavation they do, for South Africa, for example, to see the problem, understand the problem, I would work for 1 week, traveling, going to underground, then coming back, correlating the data of manufacturing history and understanding why a particular component failed and all that. Whereas today, I can communicate with them lively. I don't have to go 2 kilometers underground to see our casting broken or worn out. And I can also bring the knowledge of other people from other places. So if I supplied a batch of product, which is supposed to be a further improved version, and in the test, we would have got a substantial result. But in real life, it may be slightly different. In the past, it will take at least 6 months to 1 year to fully establish what is the advantage, what has gone wrong, or what is to be done. Whereas the same 1 year can now be shortened to 2 months, because problem solving requires a lot of data, information, real fact. To understand the root cause of the problem, in the past, physically we had to travel. Physically, we had to go and talk face to face, whereas today people are happy, even customers are happy if you sit in your house and solve their problem. Whereas in the past, there was an expectation, because the mines are in remote area, there was an expectation we travel, physically see their face, then only they will realize we are really serious about solving their problem. So that is where 80% of our time, particularly person like me who are supporting and servicing customer, 80% of our time used to go not in problem solving, doing things around it. And 20% of our time was going in problem solving. What can now happen, it can be other way around. 80% I can concentrate on theory or solving the problem, and 20% other things. That's what excites me. Suddenly your efficiency, your ability, what you deliver is much more than what you could 10 years ago. For example, 10 years ago, emails were there, but by the time I get a report, the real field failure report, somebody takes a digital photo, puts it in email, comes to me. But the problem with the emails, it doesn't effectively communicate what he is trying to say, because the reader, me as a reader, how I read it can make totally a different meaning. Whereas now with this technology, with the video call, we can even see their body language, what they are trying to say, or we can counter question. So the problem solving has become much more 3-4 times more efficient.
It's great to hear from everyone that things are becoming more efficient and technology is being used to benefit both professional and tourism industries as well. So I'm going to ask you first, Jeff, and we're going to go back a couple of years. What are some words of advice you would give yourself back in secondary school, knowing what you know now?
Ah, dear. That's a difficult question. I guess I enjoy what I do now. It's not a job. It's not an effort to get up every morning and come to work. The first, I guess, I had a job before, and it was a means to an end. But now I have a career, so it's something that I'm passionate about. So I guess finding something, do something you enjoy. It doesn't, and it may take a few jobs. It might even take a few careers to find out what that is. But find something that challenges you. Find something that stimulates your mind. Or for me personally, that's what it was. So I guess there's an emphasis to know what you want to do right now, and you may not. But for me, I guess I did always want to do engineering, but it took a while to get there. But I'm finally here. So I guess I would say, it may take a few jobs, and you might need to get some experience. Life experience is great. So that's probably what I would say. Oh, and don't buy that 1976 Corolla. It's a lemon.
That is very sound advice there, Jeff. And I couldn't agree more, not about the Corolla, but definitely about, getting some life experience before, trying to find something that you want to do for the rest of your life. And I think there's no harm in trying a few things too. So Bill, I'll take it to you next. What are some advice you would give yourself back in secondary school, knowing what you know now?
This one's a good question. I've thought long and hard about this one. I definitely follow the lines of Jeff, and the advice that I would give myself if back in high school was follow your dreams, enjoy what you do. I'm very much like Jeff. I've been fortunate enough to find a career or find multiple careers where I've enjoyed what I do. Every morning I get out of bed. It's not because I have to, it's because I want to, and I enjoy. And it's been great to have a career in which I'm able to follow. If I had the opportunity again, I most certainly would have travelled a lot more with my job. I did stay in Mount Isa for about 6 years, when the average is probably about 2 or 3. I probably would have taken the opportunity to move around and maybe work on some more mine sites, maybe some different parts of the world, like maybe Western Australia or Tasmania would have definitely been some places I would have liked to go. When I was very young, I had my mind made up very early on in life that geology was all that I was going to do. I didn't see myself moving into another industry, and probably until later on in life. And that's the thing, is never think that life is always going to be what you plan it to be. It's always going to end up being something different. But from time to time, try something new, try something different. Even if you're in a career and you've been in there for a while and you suddenly start to get a bit disinterested, or want to do something else, by all means, you know, jump in and find another job, find another career, as you know, for several years, and you know, maybe end up moving in a different direction. So, you know, not only working in mining and tourism, but I've also worked in. I took 6 months off in between my job, and I worked as a delivery driver. It was it paid the bills, and it was something completely different. It was a good opportunity to reset and just find a new career and find a new pathway in life. Also, a bit of life experience as well is always good, and being able to meet other people in other industries. A lot of geologists that I know have ended up working in mining for several years and have ended up moving into other fields. So I have a friend in Adelaide who works as an asset manager. I have another friend in Melbourne who's a civil engineer. A few guys that have I was talking to the other day, and they're running a fishing charter up in Kununurra. So it's definitely very interesting to see where a lot of people that I went to uni with have moved out of mining, have moved into other careers, and have definitely taken the opportunity to follow their dreams and do other things outside of mining. So the one big piece of advice, if I was to ever give myself in high school, would definitely be follow your dreams and enjoy.
Yeah, I think that's a really important message. And I think, you know, it's really important to be okay with changing in your careers. And like you mentioned with your friends from university, they've gone on to different paths, but they're probably following some passions as well. And like you mentioned about having 6 months off as well, that it's okay to reset and find a clearer path for yourself. So thanks for sharing that, Bill. Bala, what are some words of advice you would give yourself back in secondary school, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, look, having traveled around the world in different countries and different culture and different living, I think children in Australia do and have to travel a little bit. It is only an appreciation that comes how lucky we are here. Number two, we should have passion, like how the migration happened 300 years ago or whatever. We invented washing machine or whatever. That innovation part happened because of someone's passion at a very young age. And that passion is what is to be developed at the high school. It doesn't matter. The younger kids think that technology, going towards technology would do their life. It doesn't. If you think about, for example, Uber Eats or any of the technology, it is only an application. You still need a very good chef in the restaurant to have a good meal prepared. And how does that come? A chef will prepare a good meal out of his passion. So depending on what you want to do in life, there is nothing like a job in technology is greater than a job in the kitchen. It doesn't matter. As long as you develop an interest, as long as you have passion, you will enjoy the job. And when you enjoy the job, you give 120% instead of 80%. Job is not all about just earning money and paying bills. Efficiency doesn't come from that. Efficiency comes from everyday learning, and everyday learning will happen out of your passion. So do some research around you, do some work around you, attend some of the seminars like this. Now there is information all around the world. So much information is available. What is right for you, learn in that direction, develop passion, and develop your career.
There's some wonderful words of advice there, and thank you for sharing those. We've come to the forum part where we're taking audience questions. So we have one here. Was there someone who has been a great influence in your career, and how have they influenced you? I might pass that on to, I'll start with you, Bill.
I have a very, one of my grandfather's friends who unfortunately passed away a number of years ago. He was an underground miner at the Central Deborah. He was one of the last he left when the mine closed in 1953, 54, around that time. he moved on to other parts of Australia, worked in career in mining, and same ended up retiring in Bendigo. He was quite good with providing advice and very much like me now, hopefully inspiring someone, a much younger person interested in the mining industry. And he really pushed me in the direction of not only mining history but also geology. And he was very passionate about the industry. He told me very good things, and yeah, it was that was enough to push me in the right direction. So his name was Alf Flower, a very special man.
So we've received another question. So I might give this one to Jeff. What is something about your job that not many people know about, or something that's really interesting that not many people would be aware of?
What's really interesting? Well, what I find interesting might not be what everyone else finds interesting, but I'll try anyway. So I guess when we think of air at work, we don't really, and this is, I guess sometimes I surprise people when I say it, is for, when we're looking at heat, a lot of the heat that we have underground is not produced by anything. It's just produced by the depth. So for every 100 meters we go underground, by compression, the air increases by 1 degree. So where it's 12 degrees, it increases just through compression from traveling from the surface to underground. So that's an interesting fact I learned when I first looked at ventilation. The ground temperature increases 2.6 degrees every 100 meters. So down the bottom of the mine now, it's probably about 45 degrees, the rock temperature. So there's a lot of things making heat down underground. So that's that's like we call the geothermal gradient. So there's a couple of interesting facts, I guess, that I find interesting. And one thing that blows people away, I think, is when you look at the amount of air we have to move. Right now we're moving in 650 cubic meters a second. So when you think about that, those big square water containers are about a meter squared. So every second we move 650 of those through the mine. So when you put it in that perspective, it's pretty amazing, I think, anyway.
I definitely agree with you there, Jeff. I think that's a fun fact to have, and hopefully it serves someone one day, maybe in pub trivia or something like that. Bala, is there anything about your job that not many people would know about, or something that's super interesting that people would be aware of?
I came across many times. The moment I spell out my name, Dr. Bala Hebbar, and metallurgist, people ask, what is that? What do you do? And then I had to explain all along, I can't give medicine to anyone when they are sick, but I can certainly treat metal the way it is to be treated, or improve the metal the way it is to be used, or whatever application it is.
Thanks so much, Bala. And that's a very great segue to the next question about, how has the geological knowledge changed since the mid-19th century? And I might start with either Bill or yourself. Maybe Bill first, and I might go back to you, Bala.
What is the question?
How has the geological knowledge changed since the 19th century?
Oh, in terms of, because of the way it can be scanned now, like even the ore concentration, just by going through a helicopter and taking an aerial view, and drones which can be flown, and the sensors would understand. For example, Rio Tinto is doing a big survey wherein they can now identify where the ore concentrations are and what depth, and these are all the data that would make mining companies to invest. Whereas in the past, you dig a hole, finally you will find a place where there is a lot of gold or whatever. If you get that, you are lucky. Whereas now you can do a lot of work by aerial technologies. So yeah, definitely knowledge of the ground, knowledge of the earth has grown substantially, and big data processing has really made it another boost. Whether a particular mine will become viable for operation can be easily established now, whereas 50 years ago, it was just a luck.
Yeah, it's great what technology has been able to assist us in doing. And I might throw this question to you too, Bill. How have you seen it change since the mid-19th century?
From what I've seen, history has changed immensely over the years with the level of geological knowledge. So going from the 1850s to the early gold rush days, when very many people who came looking for gold to Victoria looking for gold had very little geological knowledge. Many of them had never ever seen gold before. Hence where with the common mineral iron pyrite, you get the term fool's gold, where people were tricked into thinking that they'd found loads of gold when in fact it was worth absolutely nothing. And definitely the history of mining in Bendigo has really contributed to the level of geological knowledge in Victoria. We look at the 1850s, were very prominent geologists such as Roderick Murchison believed that you couldn't find gold 200 feet below the surface. A lot of people believed him, and then they stopped mining. Meanwhile, there are a lot of pioneer miners here in Bendigo that were mining well below those depths and were finding gold. And well after a lot of the practical miners moved on, they gained their experience through hands-on mining. They passed on their geological knowledge. Their knowledge was then recorded. A lot of it really came to change during the early 1900s when a lot of geologists became involved. So very early geologists, including E.J. Dunn, Whitelaw, William Nicholas, many of these geologists who they recorded a lot of their observations underground. They wrote books, they wrote periodicals, and it's a great wealth of knowledge which has been collected over the years. And this peaked in the early 1900s. Unfortunately, mining in Bendigo was in decline. So a lot of that knowledge was very lost, probably by about the 1950s, 1960s. So a lot of the geological knowledge has certainly improved over the years. Unfortunately, a lot of that knowledge has been lost. It was largely through the efforts of probably up until about 2000. A lot of that knowledge was very well locked away until more recent times with the recent technology around Bendigo mining, when they attempted to reopen the Bendigo goldfield. They did quite a bit of work in data collection, data collation, going through a lot of the old records, a lot of libraries, filing cabinets, and digging up a lot of this information and putting it together. So with the advent of modern day computer technology, computer modeling, scanning, just so easy to collect information. Fortunately, most of this information has been saved and still being used in the mining industry today, hopefully enticing the next round of the next generation of miners and explorers looking for the next big gold deposit in Victoria. So definitely since 1851, when gold was officially discovered here in Victoria, the level of geological knowledge in Victoria has changed phenomenally. But having said that, though, there is still a lot to learn in the geological context of Victoria, particularly trying to work out where and why the gold forms where it does. A lot of people know that the gold distribution here in Bendigo and central Victoria is very erratic. It's what geologists refer to as nuggety gold. So trying to work out the mysteries of why the gold has formed where it is, there's still a lot of knowledge to be unraveled, and hopefully with more advances in modern day science and computer technologies that can help to continue to unravel that mystery around geology.
I think it's really exciting that even though we've been mining for so many years, there's still so much mystery behind it, and it's exciting to hear that the next generation of miners you know, we don't know what to expect will come with Australia and Victoria in particular. I think we'll have to wrap up from here though. So we'd just like to say a big thank you, Jeff, Bala and Bill, for all the information you've provided everyone tonight and all the time you've put into preparing for this Tech Futures talk with us. And we really appreciate you spending the time with us to do this. A big thank you to our audience for attending today and for registering for our event. If anyone has any questions about tonight's event, we will stay on for another 5 minutes in case anyone wants to ask a last minute question. Otherwise, you can send us an email and I'll leave that on the screen as well. We also have our socials on the screen too. So if you'd like to follow us and keep up to date with any events that we have going on, we'll keep that there as well. But a big thank you from the Bendigo Tech School, and we'll hope to see you at the next event.
Thanks very much.
Bye.